Hi, it's Paulie here. In the Australian summer, so you'll have to forgive the fact that I have a impromptu blowfly who is now unofficially part of our cast. Anyway, I came from miniatures gaming, and I've always loved it. A weird fascination I've always had is for galley warfare. Now, for those of you who haven't sort of obsessed over galley warfare, kind of a neat thing is the fact that galleys, like so many technologies, have kind of reached their peak, of course, at the moment when they're superseded. Piston engine aircraft are fantastic right at the moment jets come in. The Lepanto period, sort of 1571 thereabouts, is really interesting. It's sort of high Renaissance, but galleys and so on are still ruling the waves in the Mediterranean. They have dense batteries of heavy cannon which fire in the direction the ship is pointed, so you can kind of essentially use these things as giant shotguns, firing small shot and grape shot and so on before you hit and board. They don't have an underwater ram, they often have a spur above the ground. Part of that you can kind of rake and you can kind of destroy the other guy's gallery, which is where the oars stick out from, but mostly you can crash this into people, and it's got a flat platform on top, so it's a boarding platform. It's everything the Romans ever wanted, but didn't have the technology to quite develop. So there is this wonderful game, Galleys, Guns and Glory. This is done by Thomas Foss. Skull and Crown, wonderful little company. Now, this is the game of those Renaissance galley battles, but what is wonderful about these is they come with a model range that the company produces, and these are essentially kits that you buy that are made from laser prepped, I'm going to say wood. Very simple to construct. What you do is you paint these different layers. I'll show you some pictures of these, glue these things together, and they make beautiful models. They also come with counters as part of the models, which represent crew. So this is an interesting game. It's a hybrid between a miniatures game and a tactical board game. It's using miniatures and is using counters. So hybrid, really interesting idea. And a colourful period that isn't well touched upon. There are different fleets for this. In particularly the Lepanto period, of course, the Ottoman Empire was, surging through into Europe, and various European alliances were trying to fight them to a standstill. You can pick ships that come from different nationalities. So on the Ottoman side, you've got Turkish vessels, but you've also got corsairs from all of the Algerian corsairs and so on, and these have very specific bonuses they get. The Turkish vessels had very, very high firepower from archers and so on board. They set up a storm of bows and arrows. This period is in fact the last period in which the head of an army or fleet actually fought in the front lines, bow in hand. The corsairs, very manoeuvrable. On the Christian side, there's the Venetians. Of course, the Venetian naval technology is very, very high. They actually mass-produced ships, and their ships were very fast, so their ships are quite manoeuvrable, and their gunnery is very good. Spanish are very good at essentially storm and board, so their ships are quite good again with small shot and that storming forward and boarding. Knights of Malta and so on are very heavily armoured, so their guys are quite difficult to injure in combat. They're all basically in plate armour. There are papal states and all sorts of other different little states that you can get. Each of these is bought from the site, and they come with awnings and banners and bunting and so on. So they make up colourfully, they're beautiful, and each fleet has its own kind of distinctive characteristics. So it's kind of fun, and obviously you make fleets that are alliances of the correct sides. Look, system-wise, this is very, very, very easy to access. Your ships, the kits and so on, come with little protractors and so on, which have your turning radiuses. The ships are fairly simply expressed. They have a manoeuvre code, which gives them a turning circle. They've got speed, they've got guns, they've got crew, and these special abilities. Now, Everything is done on D6s. It's a simple, accessible set of rules. So you roll for initiative. Your fleets are split into battles, squadrons. So it's an I go, you go. Once whoever wins the initiative does everything for one squadron, it switches to the other side, they do a squadron. You keep going until this is finished. Gunfire, you're rolling to hit, but these guns are quite large and unwieldy. They don't recoil on beautiful carriages the way, say, Napoleonic style cannons do. A lot of them are essentially kind of lashed in place, so you have to roll to reload them once you fire. So you've got to use your fire wisely. You can't kind of thunder in there and expect to shoot. And also they fire in the direction you're pointing, so it's a bit like fighter planes actually. As you maneuver these things around, you're trying to turn into someone and bang and hit them on the side, and then follow that up by ramming. You've got these ramming charts depending on the size of the vessel and so on. You might glance off, you can do damage. If you ram, you get the opportunity to kind of board over the front. As you take damage and so on, these wonderful counters that you've got are removed to show crew losses. The last counter is the captain and the guys who actually work the ship. That's the last one that you lose. Once that's gone, the thing's kind of just sort of drifting there. You can capture ships, you can recrew ships. There are morale rules. Once ships take a ton of damage, they might flee or they might surrender. You can take damaged vessels under tow. It's actually quite simple and very, very accessible. And this is one of the things I really like about it. This is a fantastic game for introducing kids to wargaming. It's bright, it's colourful, it's kind of really engaging, and the fact that all of these different fleets have different characteristics is just what young players love. So I think this is a great way of introducing young players to historical gaming and naval gaming. It's also a good way of introducing any new player to historical stuff. But for jaded old buggers like us, this is actually a real breath of fresh air. It's bright, it's fast, it's fun, it's funny. These are good rules, and it's a great period that hasn't really been dealt with as colourfully as it could. There are some fairly dry wargames rules out there. These ones are out and out fun. Now, those galley models are actually 1/300th scale. If you want to, the counters that come with it, you can replace that with a stand of 1/300th figures. You can go to Heroics and Ross, or you can go to Bacchus, and you can replace that with like a stand of Musketeers or Marines or whatever, if you want these to look more like full-on miniature battles rather than that hybrid. This is a great one to build terrain for. You'll need to get like some kind of blue sheet or something and put some spray paint and bits and pieces on it to make it look like water. But you can take some polystyrene, you can make islands, you can make reefs, you can make mighty fortresses and all this sort of stuff. So it's really colourful, it gets people in. And like I said, very, very simple to teach but fun to play. Take a look at these. Look, if you're not a miniatures player, the great thing about naval and air games is that they don't require that much of an investment to play. You're not being asked to make an army of 1,000 miniatures. You're being able to make, half a dozen, really, of these ship models, and that's pretty easy, and that's well within everyone's budget. The models are excellent. They're great fun to make. You can rig them, as in put the ropes and so on in that hold things aloft as much or as little as you like. They look great just essentially straight from the packet. And its replayability is great. You can make campaigns of this. There are scenarios out for this. I think that this is a wonderful piece of work, and I would love to see miniatures clubs really embrace it. But I think role-playing gamers can get some fun out of this as well. Naval and seagoing stuff is a big part of role-playing games. Take a look at these as your model. The rules come as download from the website, so just grab hold of them. So this really costs you nothing to look, but it could be a fantastic supplement for your role-playing games, or a great little thing to jump into for your games club. Take a look at it, and I absolutely guarantee you won't regret it. This is a great game. It's well designed, it's well supported, the models are fantastic. So get out there and get gaming. Cheers!